Fighting with the swords, gone. Playing with the brain, on. Let's play Giraffe Chess Hattrick League Season 3.
International Giraffe Chess Federation presents Hattrick League Season 3 between 10 Proddatur teams. Hello everyone, welcome to India's new 68 squared Giraffe Chess Academy Proddatur, and welcome to the live telecast of no draws, no resigns, only win or lose in just 70 moves Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us watch Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 25th match between Proddatur Marshals versus Proddatur Gladiators team. Each team consists of 3 players. Whoever team all outs opponent all 3 players is the match winners. Let us see the top.
What's the select? Takes the call from the Proddatur Gladiators. Takes. Toss won by the Proddatur Gladiators. What will select? White side or black side? And Gladiators won the toss and elected to play on black side.
Proddatur Gladiators team, they won the toss and elected to play on black side. And here is the both teams lineup. For Proddatur Marshals team, Surya is the opener and Dharnis is the second player and the third player is Saichar Naik. And for Proddatur Gladiators team, Jay Bhargav is the opener and Sufyan is the second player and Ishwar comes to play as third player. Now let us watch first game of the match between Proddatur Marshals team opening player Surya versus Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Jay Bhargav Reddy. Let us see among these 2 players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Let us watch. Let us move on to the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Marshals team opening player Surya is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Jay Bhargav Reddy is ready to play on black side.
Now we can see both players are ready to start game 1 of the match. Black side player Jay Bhargav is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 1 started.
Knight to f3, pawn to d5, knight to c3, pawn to e6, pawn to d3, pawn to c6, pawn to e4, knight to e7, knight to d4, pawn to c5, knight to b5, pawn to d4, knight to e2, pawn to a6, knight to a3, pawn to b5, pawn to c3, pawn to b4, pawn capture pawn at b4, pawn capture pawn at b4, knight to c2, knight to c6, pawn to a3, pawn to f6, pawn capture pawn at b4, bishop capture pawn at b4 and check to white king, knight capture bishop at b4, Knight capture knight at b4. Queen to b3. Knight to c6. Knight to g4 illegal. Knight to f4. Pawn to e5. Knight to h3. Bishop to e6. Queen to c2. Knight to b4. Queen to d2. Knight to c6. Giraffe to f3. Bishop to f7. Giraffe to e0. Giraffe to d6. Pawn to f4. Knight to b7. Pawn to g3. Rook to b8. Bishop to g2. Knight to b4. Knight to f2. Queen to c8. Giraffe to f3. Giraffe to e6. King to d1. Giraffe capture giraffe at f3. Bishop capture giraffe at f3. Bishop to d3 and check to white king. King to e2. Knight to c2. Rook to b1. Bishop to a2. Rook to a1. Knight capture rook at a1. Giraffe capture knight a1. Knight to c5. Pawn capture pawn at e5. Pawn capture pawn at e5. Giraffe to b4. Knight to b3. Queen to e1. Knight capture bishop at c1 and check to white king. And check to white king. Giraffe capture knight at c1. Rook capture pawn at b2 and check to white king. King to f1. Giraffe to g5. Knight to g4. Rook to b1. Knight capture pawn at e5. Rook capture giraffe at c1 and check to white king. Bishop to d1. Queen to h3 and check to white king. King to e2. Queen to g2 and check to white king. King to illegal. Queen to f2.
Now
Queen
Jayawardene
capture queen at
immediately
f2 and
captured
check to white
queen
king and
at
it's a checkmate.
f2 and set check to white king. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Jayawardene. What a superb checkmate win to Jayawardene. Surya out. Proddatur Marshals team, Surya out. And with this win, Jayawardene, he won the first game and still need 2 more wins to do hat-trick and become hat-trick hero of today's great match. Now, let us watch second game of the match between Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Jaybar Reddy versus Proddatur Marshals team second player Danish Reddy. Let us see among these two players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Among these two players, Jaybar Reddy already won the first game and now playing for winning second game. Let us watch what will happen. Let us move on to the court. One-time hat-trick hero, best scholar awardee, Proddatur Marshals team second player, Danish Reddy is ready to play on black side. Let us see on other side of the court, best scholar awardee, Proddatur Gladiators team opening player, Jaybar Reddy is ready to play on white side. Now we can see both players are ready to start game 2 of the match. Black side player Darnish is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 2 started.
Pawn to e4, pawn to d5, pawn to f3, pawn to e5, pawn to d3, pawn to f6, knight to d2, knight to d7, knight to e2, pawn capture pawn at e4, knight capture pawn at e4, knight to e7, pawn to g3, pawn to f5, knight to d2, knight to b6, bishop to g2, knight to d5, pawn to c4, knight to b4, pawn to a3, knight to a6, pawn to b4, knight to g6, bishop to b2, bishop to e7, pawn to b5, knight to b8, pawn to h4, bishop to f6, giraffe to e3, pawn to e4, bishop capture bishop to f6, giraffe capture bishop at f6, giraffe capture giraffe at f6, pawn capture giraffe at f6, pawn capture pawn at e4, pawn capture pawn at e4, pawn capture pawn at e4, pawn to a6, pawn to h5, knight to f8, giraffe to f3, giraffe to e6, giraffe capture giraffe at e6, knight capture giraffe at e6, queen to e0, knight to c5, rook to d1, queen to e7, knight to f3, knight to a4, queen to d0, queen capture pawn at e4, rook to g1, queen to e7, king to e0, knight to c3, rook to d2, knight capture knight at c2, rook to e1, knight capture queen at d0, rook capture queen at e7 and check to blocking, king capture rook at e7, rook capture knight at d0, knight to c6, bishop capture knight at c6, pawn capture pawn at c6, knight to d4, bishop to b7, bishop capture pawn at c6, bishop capture bishop at c6, knight capture bishop at c6 and check to blocking, king to f7, rook to d7 and check to blocking, king to e6, rook to e7 and check to blocking, king to d6, rook to f7, king capture knight at c6, rook capture pawn at f6 and check to blocking, king to c5, king to d1, king capture pawn at c4, king to d2, king to b3, rook to f3 and check to blocking, king to b2, rook to d3, rook to d8, king to e3, rook capture rook at d3, king capture rook at d3, king to illegal, king to c1, king to e2,
Now Darnish is just one step away to win by crowning. Yes, he
King
moved
to
his king
D0,
to
crowning win.
D0 and won the game by crowning. What a superb crowning win to Darnish. And Jay Bhargav out. Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Jay Bhargav out. And with this win, Darnish, he won the first game and still need two more wins to do hat-trick and become hat-trick hero of today's great match. And there is a disappointment for the Jay Bhargav. He lost the hat-trick chance.
Let us watch third game of the match between Proddatur Marshals team second player Darnish Reddy versus Proddatur Gladiators team second player Sufyan. Let us see among these two players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Among these two players, Darnish Reddy already won the first game and now playing for winning second game. Let us see what will happen. Let us move on to the court. One-time hat-trick hero, best scholar awardee, Proddatur Marshals team, second player Darnish Reddy is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. Little scholar awardee, Proddatur Gladiators team second player Sufyan is ready to play on black side.
Now we can see both players are ready to start. Game 3 of the match. Black side player Darnish is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 3 started.
Pawn to D4. Pawn to E5. Pawn to E3. Knight to F6. Knight to C3. Pawn to D6. Pawn to F4. Queen to E7. Pawn capture, pawn to E5. Pawn capture, pawn to E5. Pawn capture, pawn to E5. Queen capture, pawn to E5. Knight to F3. Queen to E7. Bishop to D2. Bishop to G4. Pawn to H3. Bishop capture, knight to F3. Pawn capture, bishop at F3. Knight to H5. Bishop to G2. Knight to G3. Rook to G1. Queen to D7. Pawn to F4. Bishop to C5. Bishop capture, pawn to B7. Knight to C6. Bishop capture, rook at A8. Giraffe capture, bishop at A8. Giraffe to H1. Pawn to F6. Rook capture, knight at G3. Pawn to G5. Rook to G1. pawn to e5, bishop to c1, queen captured queen at d1 and check to white king, knight captured queen at d1, pawn to g4, pawn capture pawn at g4, pawn capture pawn at g4, rook capture pawn at g4, knight to b4, rook to b1, knight capture pawn at a2, pawn to f5, bishop to b4 and check to white king, pawn to c3, bishop to a5, pawn to b4, bishop to b6, rook to e4 and check to black king, king to d8, bishop to b2, rook to g8, giraffe to g4, giraffe to d7, rook to f4, giraffe to d6, knight to f2, giraffe captured pawn at e3, giraffe captured giraffe at e3, giraffe to c4, rook captured giraffe at c4, knight captured pawn at c3, rook captured knight at c3, bishop captured giraffe at e3, rook captured bishop at e3, king to d7, rook to d3 and check to black king, king to c6, rook to c1 and check to black king, king to b5, rook to d5 and check to black king, king to a4, rook to a5 and check to black king, king to b3, bishop to d4, pawn to c5, pawn capture pawn to c5, rook capture giraffe at g4, rook to b5 and check to black king, king to a3, rook to
Now
a1
Dharnesh
and check
immediately
to black
moved
king,
his
and
rook
it's
to
a checkmate.
a1 and set check to black king. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Dharnesh. What a superb checkmate win to Dharnesh. Sufyan out. Proddatur Gladiators team second player Sufyan out. Dharnesh with this win he won continuously 2 games and still need one more win to do hat-trick and become hat-trick hero of today's great match. us watch fourth game of the match between Proddatur Marshals team second player Dharnesh Reddy versus Proddatur Gladiators team last player Ishwar. Let us see who will win this game. If Dharnesh Reddy wins this game, it will be Hattrick to Dharnesh Reddy. He will be the Hattrick hero of today's great match and his Proddatur Marshals team won the match. If Ishwar wins this game, match will be tied with 2-all games and go for fifth game for result. Let us move on to the court. One-time Hattrick hero, best scholar awardee, Proddatur Marshals team second player Dharnesh Reddy is ready to play on black side. Let us see on other side of the court. Best scholar awardee, Proddatur Gladiators team last player Ishwar is ready to play on white side.
Now we can see both players are ready to start game 4 of the match. Black side player Dharnesh is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 4
Pawn to
started.
E3, pawn to D6, bishop to C4, bishop to E6, bishop capture bishop at E6, pawn capture bishop at E6, pawn to H3, pawn to A5, knight to F3, pawn to E5, giraffe to C3, giraffe to E6, knight to H4, knight to H6, giraffe to F3, knight to F7, giraffe capture giraffe to E6, pawn to E4, giraffe capture pawn to B7 and check to black king, king to D7, giraffe to C4 and check to black king, king to E8, queen to H5, pawn to G6, queen to B5 and check to black king, pawn to C6, queen to A4, knight to A6, giraffe to D7 and check to black king, king to D9, queen capture pawn to C6, knight to E5.
Now Ishwar
Giraffe
immediately
to
jumped
E6
giraffe
and
to
check
E6 and said check to black king. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Ishwar. What a superb checkmate win to Ishwar. Dharnesh out. Proddatur Marshals team second player Dharnesh out. Big disappointment to Dharnesh. He lost the hat-trick chance.
Now, let us watch most important match-winning deciding fifth game of the match between Proddatur Marshals team last player Sai Charan Nayak versus Proddatur Gladiators team last player Ishwar. So far, both teams won 2 games. Now, whoever team player wins this fifth game, they are the match winners. Let us watch what will happen. Let us move on to the court. Young Scholar Awardee Proddatur Marshals team last player Sai Charan Nayak is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Gladiators team last player Ishwar is ready to play on black side.
Now we can see both players are ready to start game 5 of the match. Black side player Ishwar is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 5 started.
Pawn to d4, pawn to e6, pawn to e4, pawn to h6, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, knight to f6, pawn to e5, knight to g4, castling at king side, pawn to h5 illegal, knight to h6, bishop to g5, pawn to f6, pawn capture pawn at f6, giraffe capture pawn at f6, knight to c3, knight to f5, giraffe to e3, giraffe to g8, giraffe capture giraffe at f6, pawn capture giraffe at f6, bishop to f4, pawn to e5, pawn capture pawn at e5, pawn capture pawn at e5, knight capture pawn at e5, bishop to d6, rook to e1, queen to h4, knight to e6 and check to blocking, knight to e7, knight capture queen at h4, knight capture knight at h4, bishop to g5, knight to f5, bishop capture knight at e7, bishop capture bishop at e7, knight to d5, pawn to d6, knight capture pawn at c7 and check to blocking, king to d7, Knight capture rook at a8. King to c6. Queen to d5 and check to black king. King to d7. Bishop to b5 and check to black king. King to d8. Queen to f7. Rook to h6. Pawn to h3. Bishop to d8. Queen to d5. Pawn to a6. Bishop to a4. Pawn to b5. Bishop to b3. Pawn to h4. Pawn to g4. Knight to g7. Queen to c6. Bishop to e8. Queen to c7 and check to black king. King to d9. Bishop capture giraffe at g8. Bishop to d8. Queen captured knight at g7. Rook to g6. Queen to d4. Rook capture bishop at g8. Queen captured pawn at d6. Rook to g6. Knight to c7 and check to black king. King to e9. Queen to e5. Bishop. Bishop to f6.
Sai Nayak immediately
captured
captured
bishop
bishop
at e7
at
and check to black.
e8 and said check to black king. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Sai Nayak. What a superb checkmate win to Sai Nayak. Gladiators team, Ishwar, last player out. Gladiators team with this out, all out and lost the match. Sai Charan with this game win, he makes his team won the match.
Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us see match number 25 Proddatur Marshals vs Proddatur Gladiators match scorecard. In game 1, Proddatur Gladiators team player Jay Bhargav outs Proddatur Marshals player Surya by checkmate in 42 moves. In game 2, Proddatur Marshals player Dharnish outs Proddatur Gladiators player Jay Bhargav Reddy by crowning in 48 moves. In game 3, Proddatur Marshals player Dharnish outs Proddatur Gladiator player Sufyan by checkmate in 43 moves. Here Dharnish lost the great hat-trick chance in the fourth game. In the game 4, Proddatur Gladiators player Ishwar outs Proddatur Marshals player Dharnish by checkmate in 17 moves. In game 5, Proddatur Marshals player Sai Charan outs Proddatur Gladiators player Ishwar by checkmate in 39 moves. So in this match, Proddatur Marshals team won the match by all outs Proddatur Gladiators team in 5 games. And here is the points table of Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us see what are the top 4 teams after finishing off 25 matches. Proddatur Chirutas with 10 points stood in first position. Proddatur Kings team with 8 points stands on second position. Proddatur Spartans team with 8 points stands on third position. Proddatur Jaguars team with 6 points stands on fourth position. Each team, after playing 9 matches, final points are calculated for top 4 positions. Top 4 teams only